Hello and welcome back to Cleaved. We'll be continuing where we left off, which, if you recall, is quite a while ago. I believe the version that I read, because I think that the first part changed a little. I don't know how much. I know that certain things with the main character were changed or are going to change going forward. They're going to become more of a person rather than a stand-in for the reader, I think, which is good, honestly. No more self-inserts, please. I believe that the person was transported to this medieval furry world, and they found themselves in the custody or protection, I guess, of Fraser, a fox, and you had the option of either sticking with the fox or just letting the authorities capture you, in which case you would be in the custody of, I think his name is Skuld. Kind of like Skull, but like Skuld. Kind of like a chubby wolf dog person. I decided to stick with Fraser because, quite frankly, I don't have the time to read two routes at the same time. I know I do it for some other visual novels, but, like, honestly, if I don't do it for Roads Yet Traveled, I'm not going to do it for Cleaved. Anyways, what else? At the end, you end up getting captured, and you get thrown in jail, and then you end up meeting Kaldor, who I'm assuming is the main protagonist's, their person, their dog, their wolf. So yeah. Anywho, so without further ado, let us continue Cleaved and see where the story, goes. I look up at the wolf's paw with bated breath. I reach out and grasp it. His digits form a seal around my palm, and he effortlessly pulls me to my feet. It's surprising. I felt the strength of many people since walking through the gate, but this wolf in particular has some serious power tucked in his form. Oh, hi. Well, hello to you too. I carefully watch his mannerisms as he takes a neutral stance in the doorway. In response, I try to get my thoughts in order. I'm sorry. I'm still a little groggy from everything that's happened. Take a minute to compose yourself. You're gonna need it. I do as he says and take a deep breath, nodding at him to let him know that I am ready to continue. I normally have the council screaming bloody murder about how unbecoming it is for a king to come to such a place. But given the special nature of your case, I couldn't help myself from overseeing this one personally. Is it really that weird to have a stranger visit? What did he say? Wait, did you say king? The one and only. He lets out a confident chuckle, the perfect accompaniment to his boast. After firmly resting a paw on his gut, he composes himself and glares me down. But yes, I am King Kaldor Fimbleson, first and only of my lineage. And you have found yourself in my kingdom, Oxheimer. Well, yeah, I kinda figured that last part. Though unintentional, his bravado drops at my presumption. With a blush forming on his face, I watch him try to pick himself back up. Oh, I do suppose that's a little obvious now, isn't it? He once again lets out another chuckle, downplaying his embarrassment before taking a quick stretch. How about you tell me a little bit about yourself then, scoffer? The smirk on his face reappears as he looms in, looking down at me and tilting his head around to see my sides. Well, I'm Brian. You've said that I'm in your kingdom, but I don't really know where that is. I reckon I'm lost and I don't know. The wolf in his viewing of me presses his muzzle close to my body, giving me a sniff with his wide, damp snout. What are you doing? Oh, I'm trying to get your scent. See if it's familiar to me. I assure you that we haven't met. I'm not sniffing you for that reason, Spar. I'm just curious if I'd been able to tell where you came from based on it, although... I can't imagine it's somewhere too pleasant. You smell like you could do with a long shower. He backs away and continues to circle me, getting a good look at my back. Well, that's an interesting garment, Brynn. I feel him grab the bottom of my lab coat and pull it up. A cold draught of wind shoots up my spine and now on full display for the wolf. Hey! I pull away quickly and spin on the tips of my toes to look back at him. Oi, perv! What are you staring at? What do you mean? It's not like there was anything to look at. I let out an involuntary gasp, and the wolf across from me blushes as he realizes what he said. No, that is not what I meant. I would never even consider doing that. I'm not even interested in males like that. If anything, you're the pervert for insinuating that. Oh, sure, 'cause that makes sense. Might I suggest you to get a rum? A stranger's voice shouts down from the above floor, interrupting our conversation. Kaldor spins on his heel and his hackles rise, voice now bitter as he barks out. Silence, Fangir! His face is bright red and I can only imagine mine is matching, given how flushed in the face I feel. He lets out an awkward and contagious laugh, and I reluctantly join him in his hysterics. The wolf sighs before speaking. I do apologize for that, Brynn. I really should carry myself better, but it's hard not to contain my excitement. It feels like 10 winters have passed since I was able to see someone from beyond our lands. Much less someone as interesting looking as you. Ah, I see. Well, I suppose it's alright. I'm just a bit jumpy given everything that's happened. I'm going to assume that you're also someone who's never seen a human before, correct? Aye. Throughout all my travels, I've never seen a creature as naked as you. Ah, someone else who doesn't know what a human is. I sigh and rub the back of my head. I'd say that I'm surprised, but at this point it feels like it should be expected. Hey now, how many people have you actually met so far? Well, just one fox. The wolf has a frown on his face, as his interest in the conversation seems to dwindle in an instant. Oh yeah, and how's that Svanger fox doing? Well, physically he looks rather well, but I don't know how he really is. He got a little emotional when we talked. Let me guess, he gave you that old, skitter speech about how me and the rest of my kind are the root of all evil? Not really. More so how some of the people here aren't exactly treated the best, even if they're the law-abiding kind. I give the wolf a rather angry stare, unhappy with the negative connotations his words carried. I'm honestly inclined to agree with him based on the threats that your damn guards gave me. He leans in, dropping down to my level. I suggest that you wait until you can see life here for yourself before you jump to assumptions, half-pint. He ends his remark with a snarl, making me shrink back a bit before he leans away and recomposes himself. Listen, I wasn't there, so I can't comment as such, but we have taken into account what eyewitnesses said. I can assure you that the guards have tried to arrest you. Schnell and Nud will be dealt with appropriately. Although considering you ran away with a known fugitive, I can understand their skepticism. He takes a step back, clearly intent on changing the subject by his unnerved brow. At least you can think of it this way. You've maybe met 2 whole individuals since you've got here. That's including me. There's bound to be someone who knows more about your kind. Regardless of our small bickering, I appreciate him for trying to comfort me. That's comforting. But then my mind flashes back to my original conversation with Fraser. I know the fox had mentioned putting me in contact with a friend of his in the old town. It crosses my mind to ask the wolf if he is at all familiar with him, but given how sour he seems about the fox, it feels better to keep that card close to my chest for the time being. I'm certain that we can find someone, that is, if the trial goes well. He says that last part under his breath. A growing concern comes to mind, but before I can respond, I hear the faint footsteps of another individual ascending the stairs. King Kaldor. Oh, of course they would send him. Grand Hersir Seior, to what do I owe this truly great I I watch in shock as an older wolf walks in to the now crowded cell and swiftly delivers a quick smack to the king's rump. I can't help but laugh at the wolf's sudden jolt, but I quickly turn my glance to the older one. Now, don't you sass me, boy. You know as well as I do that I don't care for that fancy talk when we're not in front of the rest of the council. Okay, my apologies, uncle. He too laughs at the older wolf's antics despite the blush still on his face. I watch him lean in and whisper to him. Do me a favor and try not to embarrass me in front of the human, though. I've got a reputation to uphold after all. The old wolf rolls his eyes before looking over to me. So, this is the fabled creature that's caused so much gossip and deliberation amongst our walls. Scrawnier than I had anticipated. Despite his comments, I don't shrink from him, and I instead meet his gaze. His status would imply a factor of intimidation. However, the way that he's spoken and acted with Caldor gives a sentiment that he's not like the others. He shoots me a smile before crossing his arms and looks me up and down. You got a name, Runt? It's Brian. Brian, huh? I like it. Now then, Brian, has my bumbling oaf of a nephew explained to you that the council has been waiting for your trial for nearly half an hour? The larger wolf behind him looks to the side, trying to hide his embarrassment from getting sidetracked. He did not. I apologize for... There's nothing for you to apologize for, boy. You, however... He looks back over to Caldor with a scathing and disappointed look. Oh, but uncle, Caldor, you're king now. No, I simply... You can't afford to be making mistakes like this. His tone increased with frustration at Caldor trying to justify his actions. I thought back to the nature of them and understand his true intentions. The council will be furious. You already know about the distaste for your ascension due to your age. Do you really want to add more? He delayed informing me to help me. He turns to me as I cut him off. I woke up and I was panicking and disoriented. Caldor took the time to calm me down and explain where I was and help me recall the events that I've done up until now. I would think that it would be the sign of a wise ruler who can set aside personal missions to share such compassion. Even if that compassion was to ensure that I'd be conscious and responsive for whatever you have in store for me. While speaking out of turn may come to haunt me, I'm reassured by the larger wolf. He gives me a sympathetic look as it appears that I've given him an opening to speak. Did you really plan this, or is that just your luck shining on? Uncle, I know you perceive me as nothing but an oaf, but I assure you that I have the best intentions of both the human and the council in mind. We wouldn't be able to give him a fair trial if he wasn't in the right state of mind. Which, I'm sure you already know, would continue to hinder our relations with some of the public. Furthermore, he must be able to give satisfactory answers to the council so that we can reach a mutual decision on what is to happen to him. Now, if you are done berating me... He shoves past the old wolf to get in front of me. Apologies that we have to cut our conversation so short, Brian. But my uncle is correct, and we must move forward. I'll explain what's going to happen as we walk to the royal hall. After you, uncle. Looking a bit deflated, Seior steps out of the cell and lets out a sigh. Caldor grabs both my hands by the wrists and lifts them up so that they can be found in a set of iron shackles. Do you mean bound? Believe me, it's more for your safety than my own. I'm confident that if we came to blows, I could handle myself just fine. The wolf shoots me a wink as if to let me know that although he's gotten serious, it hasn't detracted from his carefree personality. As I step out, I can see that the older wolf has already walked off, getting a head start on the descent. This leaves me and the king in a somewhat state of privacy as we continue to talk. Thanks, for stepping in like that. His head is off to the side, avoiding my gaze, as I look to meet him in the conversation. Don't mention it. Thanks for giving me that time to get ready for, well, whatever is gonna come next. I take a few steps over to the stairwell and begin to walk down them, hearing the faint patter of footsteps behind me as Caldor catches up. Do you know what a trial is? Do you have those where you come from? Yes, we do, and I'm familiar with the premise. Do I get a lawyer? Well... His pause throws me and I look back at him. Does this word have another meaning for them? Sorry, I should probably elaborate. Where I come from, a lawyer is someone that you can hire to advocate and represent you when you are brought forward in a trial. You know, like explaining things to you, pleading your case, just someone who tries to help you. Oh, and here I thought I was thinking that you were asking for some kind of drink. He laughs, and while I do find it endearing, I don't let it detract from the seriousness of my inquiry. Well, I've never heard of that term until today, but I think that there may be some merit to that. I have to do a lot of these now that now that I'm in charge of giving kings deliberation. My eyes widen as I hear the wolf mention his father. I catch a glimpse of his ears drooping as he says this, but he quickly corrects himself and continues. But having someone who can reassure the person in our hall is informed and understands the case specifics would save us a lot of time. He gives me a smile, but I can only ponder how genuine it is given his prior statement. That interesting idea aside, no, we do things a little differently. While I may be king, my power is not absolute. My people believe in a sovereignty where I am the one that rules over them, though I have a select number of individuals that serve as my royal council. These individuals preside over a particular important foundation that helps us govern and maintain the standards of our kingdom. They also serve to give me advice and have the ability to oppose me if enough members of the council are in agreement. Oh, I see. So, while you have a monarchy, it's not solely your decision on the actions your kingdom takes. Precisely. We are a proud people, but many kings before me have been wise enough to know that they cannot be an expert in every field. Hence, why we have these individuals to help us in the areas that we might be lacking in. For instance, while I may be able to tell you how to swing a battle axe or where to get the best pint from, I couldn't tell you fuck all about how to plant and maintain crops. That's why I have Fisk. He's in charge of our agriculture. Due to him being so knowledgeable, he's been a part of our council for many years. He's given valiant updates and so much help during hard times. Just looking at this place, I can imagine that there must be a lot of mouths to feed. It makes sense to have someone knowledgeable close to the guys in charge, especially one that knows how to feed so many people. Is he also going to be at the trial? Yes, any trial brought before the king will have all council members in attendance. This is necessary for us to reach a successful outcome. And that's not to say that we don't get the odd, petty argument that comes before us. For instance, I had these two older wolves come to seek the king's deliberation. One was upset at the other, claiming that she had not been given her change when she purchased some bread from the other's bakery. Oh god, how did that end up turning out? He let out a snicker under his breath. I entertained them for 5 minutes before I realized that it was going nowhere. Seeing Seior enter the room, I had the old man fulfill his duties of social relations and had him step in to oversee it for me. The poor wolf was stuck there for an hour before they got to the bottom of it. His snicker turns into a full-blown howl of laughter, and I even couldn't help myself from joining in. Once we composed ourselves, a question was still left on my mind. So Seior holds the role of social relations? Seior, and yes, my uncle is in charge of social relations and diplomacy. It extends to the civilians of our own city and relations with our neighboring kingdoms and cities. He's been the head of diplomacy for many moons, long before I was born. And despite what you might have seen there is no one in my life that I trust more than him. His honest sentiment was heartwarming to witness. He's lucky to have someone he trusts in charge of such a demanding area of expertise. So, he'll also be sitting in on the trial? Who else can I expect there, Caldor? Well, you've already met me and Seior. I know I already mentioned Fisk to you, but it's possible that you would have met him if you didn't get off that cart. How do you mean? Well, when the guards came to me with the report, they told me that you and Fraser practically hitched a ride on a passing cart to get through the market square. That sound about right? Yeah, that's about right. Well, that cart was actually on its way to the factory Fisk's owned. The old wolf was actually there at the time. He ain't the kindest to trespass, so in reality it's probably a good thing that my guard caught you when they did. I somehow doubt that. I mean, would you rather be turned into fertilizer? That's horrible. I go to look at him with shock, only to see that signature smirk on his face. Teasing. He laughs, and I turn back around to continue walking down the stairs. I feel him stiffen up, the pause concerning me, as he finally utters out what he wanted to say. As much as I appreciate the counsel, I do suppose that I should warn you about Astrid. Astrid? Did Fraser mention her to you? No, we didn't really talk about the council on an individual level. Why do you ask? Well, when you were brought to the spire, the guards stripped you of the cloak to make sure that you weren't concealing anything dangerous. I had a chance to see it and I recognized it as one of the cloaks that we specifically make for the bears. I was curious because while the bears have their own lives and jobs, a lot of them assist us as soldiers. Astrid is the one responsible for overseeing that exchange. Oh, I see. So, is she some kind of general? She's my ward counselor, a brilliant strategist and a battle-hardened mind, but she can be a bit, well, she can be a bit crazy. How crazy are we talking? Where the hell is that Scarface? We've waited nearly an hour for that chubby bastard. What could possibly be taking so long? The shouting cuts across our conversation as it echoes through the hall. The loud, murder-happy kind of crazy. She's certainly someone that I don't want to meet. He raises a paw to his forehead and lets out a deep sigh, clearly not looking forward to the exchange that was about to come. Might I suggest that you two cut the chit-chat here and move along promptly? You're only going to make it worse by having them wait so long. After Seior finishes, I watch as Kaldor silently agrees and steps forward. I watch as the two wolves open the heavy door with a minimal effort, allowing us to step through to the Grand Royal Hall. The echoes of the arguing council grow quieter, and we begin to march to the front of the room. Aside from the two next to me, I see 4 wolves standing by an assortment of chairs. As I look at them, they return the gaze and individually assess me as I do the same. My eyes are immediately drawn to a particular pair of wolves. They share the same dirty blonde fur color, yet the statures were vastly different. The bigger of the two had the smaller and a pretty strong headlock. Their frantic movements indicate to me that they were trying with all of their strength to break out of the grasp. Oh, so here's the rake that caused all this fuss. Lady Astrid. My ears perk at the title given to her by one of the fellow council members. I watch as a shorter wolf finally escapes her grasp and runs to the other side of the room to get away. Would you be so kind as to not torment Lord Holm, even if he is your sibling? Come now, can a girl not simply tease her brother? It's not my fault that he's as scrawny as the prisoner Heim. Am not. How's about you go down there and find out? Phelan. Enough, both of you. A large, pale-furred wolf breaks out of the foreground of the council and continues to scold the siblings. Need I remind you of your positions? No? Then take your seats and remain silent till we begin. His protruding belly does a lot to help him barge his way through the conversations and bellow out orders. The two of them lock eyes and proceed to roll them before turning around and taking a seat at either at the end of the podium. As elegant as always, Hersir Seior. Oh yes, if you could rein them in better. Seior, I encourage you to do so. The larger wolf scoffs and turns, walking to his chair before finally sitting down, the chair creaking in dismay. Fisk, is there any update on Jord's whereabouts? I follow his glance over to a tall grey wolf humbly leaning over a table. He turns around with a cup in his paw and proceeds to take a seat next to Holm. He apologizes for the wait on his part. He informed me that he's just finishing a meeting with some traders. He shouldn't be too long. With 4 of the 7 seats filled, Seior begins to walk over to the final chair on the left. Of all of them, his chair is closest to what I would consider a throne, serving as the centerpiece of this room. While I'm admiring the view, a set of footsteps are heard in quick succession approaching the hall. I turn to the source of these noises, only to see 3 wolves walk in. Upon closer inspection, it is clear that 2 of them are adorned in the standard guard uniforms that I had seen when I first walked into the city. The 2 of them approach and take me by the chain, connecting my wrists together and set me on some kind of stand. As I am held at full view of the council members, I can see the 3rd wolf walk up to one of the chairs. It is apparent that he must be the final council member that the other wolves had been discussing. He immediately stands out with his onyx fur clashing with the garment choice. His outfit is decorated and adorned with fine fabrics and jewelry. Nice of you to finally join us, Njord. He seems disgruntled, but the wolf doesn't let it bother him. Oh, I'm so sorry. Sieti? You know how caught up I can get? Stop that. What do you mean? Tired of being my Sieti, Just because I'm not married does not mean that I'm looking. Fine. Astenmin. He shoots the large wolf a flirtatious glance that sends him into a rage. That's it! My initial impression of the council drops expectantly as I watch Chaim fly off into a rage over the wolf's flirtatious banter. With him distracted, Astrid leans forward in her chair and begins making threatening hand gestures towards her brother, who in turn mouths some kind of obscenity to her. She nearly gets out of her chair to join the potential brawl Chaim may be having. Seior and Fisk simply bring a paw to their foreheads as they slowly try to regain some control of the situation. My eyes wander over to Kaldor. The wolf speaks to the guard, seemingly ignoring the situation before they give him a nod and begin to walk away. Having finished this, he takes his seat on the throne. Ahem. My voice does little to cross the arguments. Excuse me? I fail for the 2nd time and my frustration grows. Kaldor seems to be doing little to calm the situation, so I repeat myself. Excuse me! I raise my hands to my mouth, blushing as the echoes repeat back to me. In an instant, all the wolves go quiet and have their eyes on me, expressions a mix of shock, scorn, or appreciation. So it does speak, and here I thought I was thinking that I was too meek to do so. He's got quite a set of lungs on him. Maybe he can outdo your skill at barking orders? As if. Njord laughs as Chaim gives him a look of annoyance, as he only just realizes what he'd agreed to. In all fairness, the creature is right to interrupt us. We do have a trial to conduct. That's the smartest thing that's been said in this hall all day, Lord Holm. King Kaldor, while I understand that we have been fortunate to finish our duties for the day, some of us still have other tasks to get to. Is it possible that we may begin? Of course. Lords and Lady of the Council, before us today we find the human Brynn. Brynn was spotted entering the city gates yesterday. Upon entry, he was confronted by 2 guards on duty appointed to the area by Haskarl Skuld. Guardsmen Janal and Nold confronted the human, stating that he was under arrest for trespassing and potentially concerns of being a threat to the kingdom. As I am sure everyone here is already aware, this has been the standard practice for our guards after the recent threats that we have been facing from enemy kingdoms. Now, from evidence that has been submitted before the council, I must state that the human has incurred some goodwill. I pictured as much worse outcome in preparation for this moment, but that last statement gives me hope. To begin, I must state that all of us present should be aware that out of everyone who has been questioned, no one has been able to identify the human's land of origin. His species is completely unknown to me. The council takes turns deliberating on the status of my species, and they all agree that they have never seen a human before either. As such, it is not out of the realm of possibility that he simply did not know our customs, or about the overarching problems our society is currently facing. It's certainly possible. We haven't had travelers visit the actual city for a few winters. I'm not sold. Don't you think that it's possible that he was aware none of us would recognize his kind? You do raise a valuable point, dear sister. King Kaldor, the eyewitnesses who were questioned, were any of them non-woven? Why yes, multiple rodents, a few rabbits, and some of the otters were seen in the square at the time. They have all said that they were unable to identify what he was. I see. So not even our own civilians could identify him. Interesting. According to records shared with us, you took off with the known thief Fraser, correct? The larger wolf locks eyes with me, a look of distaste on his muzzle as he waits my answer. That's correct. But I did so. We are under the impression that he has some powerful allies that have knowledge beyond our walls. Were any of them able to identify you? No, he was unable to do so, and I didn't meet anyone other than him after he came to my rescue. At most, he believed that I was some kind of naked mole rat. I think that's what he compared me to, at least. His distaste grows at my comment, but I'm drawn to the sound of Astrid dying of laughter in her chair. Oh, I hate that skinny bastard, but he never fails to make me laugh. Getting back to the topic at hand, the fox came to your rescue, and you chose to flee with him? Why is that? I wasn't premeditated. When the guards tried to arrest me, they got very aggressive with me and I feared for my safety. I was simply presented with the option of running away with a friendly face and I decided to take it. The glance he gave me was awfully similar to when I defended Caldor in our previous interaction. I can only imagine he's impressed that I've kept myself composed so far. According to our reports, that is an accurate depiction of the events Hersir Seior. What of the guards who handled the arrest? Janal was promptly sent to Leknir with a black eye. Fraser had managed to throw an object hard enough at the lupine's face, and it took him out of the chase. Nud was sent to guard a different area while more experienced guards took over the scene. Astrid laughs again, teary-eyed as the rest of the council was left looking unimpressed. I'll be having a word with Skuld myself on why novices were out there. Though, Lady Astrid, may I remind you of the seriousness of this case? Especially considering the guards double as our military force, which is directly under your oath of responsibilities. She takes a deep breath, composing herself as he continues. Meaning, this incident could be a reflection of how awful of a job you've been doing. His tone is cold, causing the fierce personality of the councilwoman to boil to the surface and turn. How dare you! You and I both are aware that should anything bad come in the way of the kingdom, I have the troops ready to go to war the second that they're needed. But we wouldn't have to be spread thin and constantly training if you were doing a better job with your oath, Seior. Foreign relations and civilian diplomacy, my ass. That's enough. His paw clenches the arm of the chair, and the two wolves immediately look to their king. If you too want deliberation on a personal matter, we can wait until after the trial is complete. Understood? Yes, my king. Understood. What happened after you escaped the guards? You and the fox didn't appear before anyone until the evening. Where did you go? A brief flashback comes to my mind of Fraser, reminding me of when we discussed the sewer systems and his hideouts throughout the city, and how he'd send me to God if I were to betray him and reveal his secrets. We waited until sight had been broken with the pursuing guards before I was taken down an alleyway. We then climbed up some makeshift scaffoldings and we used the rooftops to sneak around the patrols. Please work. Ensure we're improving rooftop and back alley patrols. I want to limit the activity going forward. I'm relieved as Chaim raises his head. Goodwill aside, it doesn't change the fact that we know nothing about this individual. He made a mockery of the guard and, by extension, us. And just in case anyone wasn't aware, human, would you like to tell us what you did when you were finally caught? Specifically after you and Fraser had been caught in the tunnel leading to the outskirts? I grabbed Fraser from a guard and threw him under the gate, thus ensuring his escape. I suppose that we can add assisting a fugitive to his charge list. The council shared looks of curiosity, trying to gauge what the others were thinking over the details of my arrest. Is there anything else that we're missing? Your Highness, you look as if you're keeping something to yourself. I do have one more thing to share, actually. Brian? My eyes met the wolf's and I braced for whatever he could say. I'm wondering if you'd be so kind as to tell us a little about yourself. Your homeland, your interests, your profession? He emphasizes the last part more so, than his other ones, attempting to distract the council. After you've been arrested, a guard of mine had done a round of the cells to report back on the state of the prisoners there. I was informed that he had given you a verbal warning for climbing in the cell, but it's not what he told me afterwards that kept my interest. He heard you whispering that you built something like this. I was wondering what you may have made and what you saw that brought up a memory like that, because there isn't much to get a detailed look at from that height. Now all their eyes are on me again. Though rather strangely, out of everyone, Chaim was the most interested. A paw was on his chin as he tried to study the statement in relation. Oh, well, I'm not having the best of luck recalling my past at the moment. The best that I can really tell you is that the last thing that I remember is being somewhere really cold and being flashed with a huge light before I ended up outside the city. But I do remember that I am a university student. A scholar? Yes, I remember that my place of study was a place for people to learn about machines, and even go as far as to make some of their own. I know to get to that level, I must have had some practice on some smaller machines to know the ins and outs of them. I see. So, would this happen to be something that you made? Before I can ponder on what he meant, I watch him take out a familiar, rectangular-shaped device. My phone! In all the chaos, I hadn't stopped to consider what they might have taken from me after I had been placed in the cell. Caldor tries to use it, intrigued after watching the screen come to life when pressing down on the device. It's quite comical watching him unintentionally press both volume buttons with his fingers, as they're simply too big for my phone. His eyes go wide as a flash hits his face and he removes it from his face quickly. Sir, may I see that device? He passes it over to him and he looks a lot more interested than Caldor was. Well, you see, I didn't make that myself, but it's a very common device back in my homeland. What does it do? The better question is what it can't do. When it was first made, the intent was to be able to communicate with someone over long distance. But it's been improved and we've worked an awful lot since then. Remarkable. Chaim, do tell, is this human? Why has it turned black? He turns the device around and I can see that the screen has gone black. The battery must have run out at this point. These devices have a limited supply of energy. Would you happen to know what I meant by that? Do you take me for some sort of idiot? It's now Njord's turn to chime in with laughter, humored by my take on the wolf's intelligence. You saw the lighting and lanterns in the districts that you ran through, did you not? Now that you mention it, yeah, I did. My mind goes back to the specific totem that I saw in the market square, the one that emanated white light. How exactly does that work? Ahem. Well, this conversation on what the human knows is extremely fascinating. Is it possible that we can get back to the matter at hand, again? Fisk sets aside his passive interest in our discussion to stand with Seior in his request. Both Chaim and Caldor readjust themselves before apologizing for their rambling. Sir, taking everything into account, is there any other testimony that we need to hear, or can we move on to reaching a decision? I have no other information to share, but I open the floor to anyone who has something to say. Murmurs are exchanged, but a resounding series of silence indicates to me that there was nothing more to add. May I go first? I'm surprised to see that she was the one wanting to go first. Her silence had been noticeable after the slight verbal confrontation that she had with Seior. I'm not sold. Human, your story is too situational for my liking. I believe that there is merit to the guard's suspicion of you being a spy. And your proposal, Lady Astrid? Put the poor thing down. My eyes went wide as she slowly, casually suggested my execution. Not only would it solve the headache, but it's a message of strength. Whoever sent him will realize their strategies are subpar to our standards, and we can push the narrative of our success over them. Before anyone can speak, Holm bursts out in his chair and looks across at Astrid. Dear sister, you can't be serious. Deadly, by all means, rant away with your criticisms and thoughts of fear. Sister, if we progress with your idea, it would become a public spectacle. The Woven Society would be forced to wonder what the reasons are and query about the potential fallout of this decision would imply for our kingdom. That's not to mention that this display was in front of the civilians. It would be another show of aggression on non-woven culture, and it would continue to undo the actions members of the council have done to begin improving relations. Astrid, there has not been an execution in these lands since we came to power. If we go back to that, it will only serve to undo everything that we've worked on. I admire the wolf's attitude. From his appearance, I can't really see him as the argumentative type, but I appreciate his rationality, especially considering it's countering her suggestion to kill me. She rolls her eyes, but ponders on the smaller wolf's statements. I'm not backing down on my suggestion, brother. But what do you suppose that we do with him? As a healer, I am against the idea of taking life whenever an alternative is possible. That is why I would like to propose a more permanent residency in the Spire. With the human imprisoned, a life is spared, and we are put into a situation where we can monitor him for a longer period of time, just to assess the possibility of a future for him within this kingdom. Time seems to slow as both myself and the council await for the next person to speak. With the rattling of jewelry, I watch Njord rise up from his chair and walk the center walkway. And what might you be doing? It's called pacing. I already forgot to say that word, I'm sorry. It helps me think. I thought that I told you not to. I refuse to ignore the reasoning behind Lady Astrid's decision. There is certainly some merit to the idea. Simply getting rid of this creature would secure the safety and standing of our kingdom. However, I must agree with Lord Holm that the act is indeed a bit barbaric by today's standards. As such, King Kaldor... He turns to the wolf, meeting his eye to eye before giving his suggestion. I too would like to put my vote down, imprisoning the human in the spire. This would support this idea of the human having a potential future in this kingdom. Though, should we find him to have lied at any point, we wouldn't be in any position that could harm us, provided that he was given freedom. That, and it certainly wouldn't hurt us to use him as potential bargaining piece, should anything happen to our people as a result of all of this. Holm has a smile plastered on his muzzle, as his idea seems to be garnering reinforcement. I certainly can't say that I am happy about the idea of being imprisoned again, but it beats the alternative. At least with Holm, I have the possibility of one day being freed. Kaldor looks over to me. As our eyes meet, I see a sadness in them, as if he feels bad about this course of action. King Kaldor? Eyes are now on Hyam, as it's his turn to take the floor. He stands up and steps closer to me. You interest me, human. It's not every day the gods send us a stranger, much less a scholar with a particular knack for machinery. As such, I have a proposition for the both of you and the council. He turns his head back to speak to his fellow members, and I brace for whatever insane suggestion the chubby wolf might offer. I would like to propose that the human be surrendered to my custody. We'll give him a chance to show us what he can do for our society. If he speaks true about his ability with machines, I'd like him to work at one of my factories. The council once again breaks out into murmurs as Kaldor seems to perk up at the suggestion. I'd like to see what he knows, and where possible, I'd like to put those smarts to use and see if we can't make something out of them. As I look around the room, I can see that there is more than one wolf who's amused by the idea. And if he fails to be of use to us, or we find evidence to the contrary of his story, I have no qualms with putting him away in the spire, whether that be as a prisoner or for an exchange. I can tell by the looks of Fisk and Holm that they've hesitant to the idea, but the mention of my imprisonment should I fail seems to calm them. Human, if Hyam is successful in his proposal, what are some things that you think that you can make? I'd like to ensure that what you're capable of isn't subpar to our woven scholars' inventions. I take a moment to consider what I could potentially make. I need to see what I have to work with. This world still feels somewhat alien to me, but I do remember that back at my university I was building something big. Something that required a lot of heavy metals and wiring. I'm no stranger to getting stuck in, so if you can point me in the right direction, I can start drafting up a plan immediately. Well then, if Hyam and his boys can get you all situated, can you guarantee that these machines will benefit all of us? I'm not too interested in giving Hyam another moneymaker. There is a chuckle from some of the other council members, causing Hyam to once again pout at their call-out. If you tell me what you need, I will certainly promise to do my best. He gives me a warm smile. King Kaldor, I am happy to vote for Haim's idea. I think having an outside perspective who's willing to work with us could be valuable in looking for alternative ways to improve our current situation. He gives the older wolf an affirmative nod. As I look around the room at the members, I tally the results. At current, it is an even score as to whether I'm going to be imprisoned or set free to work. If anything, I'm grateful that the council have agreed to not entertain the idea of my death. Seior, would you care to go next? Rather stoically, he rises from his chair. Instead of taking the floor or approaching me, he remains standing, arms crossed behind his back. My vote goes with the king. Whatever decision he finds the most appropriate, I will back it. The butterflies in my stomach flutter as he goes to sit back down. A quiet sigh escapes me. With my back against the wall, I have no other option but to put my faith in the Woven King. Human. As a traveler myself, I can understand what it is like to end up in lands that you may not expect. I too know the pain of offending someone's customs, even if it was unintentional. He stands from his throne and looks down at me. Brian, I don't sense dishonesty in your words, nor any harbored anger despite the actions that have taken you to this place in time. I don't like to lose it. Getting emotional can't always help you. A few of them smile in response to my composed outward appearance. While I may be worried internally, I try to stand strong as they deliver the sentencing. In addition to your willingness to agree with the work proposal, I will be enacting this with a majority vote of the council. I nearly fall over from the confirmation, bracing myself on the stand before looking back up at him. However, with a clause that if any of the testimony that you've given today proves to be false, we will reconvene to look into alternative options for you. So, we're just letting the runt go? You questioned the king? Even after the decision was supported by the majority? No, Seior. King Kaldor, with all due respect, there needs to be some form of protective measure to accompany this decision. If we let him roam free with no surveillance, we run the risk of him running amok if he reunites with the fox. What would you propose, Lady Astrid? Summon the... I feel that that's supposed to say Jaeger, but it doesn't have that weird EA, so... Jerger? You can't be serious. He's just gotten back. And he's one of the best people that we have for this job. Give him the day to recuperate, and then he can be appointed as a Watcher of the Human. Would any of you care to agree? I do have to agree with my sister, Your Highness. It's one of the best options that we have to ensure the safety of the citizens. I concur. Having him watch over the human will ensure that we have constant updates on what he's doing. This will settle any of the curiosities into whether the human's stories are true. King Kaldor, I know that you have concerns for the physical state of the lad, but I've had him work on my farms. I can't think of a single other wolf in this kingdom that has half the stamina he does. I can't say that I really care, but if it means that he's got someone who can keep him on track to getting to and from the factories on time, I'll agree. That quiet fucker isn't allowed in, though. They do raise a valiant point, my liege. I'm sure that he'll be fine with the task. Kaldor takes a deep breath before slouching into his chair, clearly a bit irritated with his arrangement. I grow a bit weary thinking about who they could possibly have in mind to do such a task. But my thoughts are interrupted as Kaldor stands from his chair. Fine, I will speak with Huskar Gur, and have him personally assigned to the protection, monitoring, and reporting of the human and its activities. He looks over to the guards next to me before speaking. Guards, please remove the shackles from the human's wrists. Right on cue, one of the guards approaches me and unlocks the weights. I rub my wrists to get some feeling in it again, watching the wolf as he turns to the council. As always, I thank you for your attendance and assistance today. The human will be handed into my custody personally as I await for Gur to recover. Dismissed. The council members stand up slowly and make their respective exits out the hall. Kaldor hangs back for just a moment to finish talking to his uncle before finally making his way over to me. You held your ground there really well, human. I am very impressed. There is a slight wagging his tail as his mouth curls into a smile. I hope that the outcome is as good as you expected. I know it must have been quite scary at parts, especially with Haim being as investigative as he is. Well, forgive me for being thorough. We both jump out of our skin. Despite such a large and boisterous wolf, he can be pretty quiet when he feels the need. Lord Hyam, my apologies. I thought that you left after we concluded the meeting. Well, I was about to, but in case you forgot, you gave me permission to have him come work for me. I need to sort out some business with him in order to make sure that it can happen. He blushes before taking a step back so that Hyam can get a chance to join our conversation. To begin, I'd like to keep that device you presented in the meeting, King Kaldor. I would like to have my scholars personally dissect it so that we can see its full potential and see if it's something that we can use. Kaldor looks over to me for a second, as if looking for my permission. I ask if he can pass it over to me, to which he does, and I get a chance to examine it. I press the power button to ensure that it's entirely run out. With no chance that it'll turn back on, I move on to a physical inspection of the phone. Luckily, I don't see any new scratches or scuffs, a good sign if I ever do get around to powering it back up. Yeah, that shouldn't be an issue. I can't really use it when it's dead, anyway. I pass the phone into Hyam's expecting paw. He grabs it and quickly slips it into a pouch, tightening the strap to deter prying eyes. Good. Now, the other thing. He reaches for another pouch on the opposite hip, quickly untying the rope that bound it to the belt. He then flings it at me unexpectedly, and I scramble to catch it before it hits the floor. Curious, I look inside and see a considerable amount of gold coins piled high. I'm not interested in having some raggedy street urchin make an appearance at one of my workshops. I have a reputation to uphold after all. Now, I've contacted a friend of mine, a tailor in the inner district, who will ensure you have an appropriate work garment. She'll be ready for you tomorrow, so be sure to get one of your keepers to escort you promptly. I want you ready to start work with me the following day. I'm still in shock from his generosity, giving me such a large amount of money. Before I can thank him, he takes a step forward and grabs me by the collar of my lab coat, an ear close to his mouth. Now you best not disappoint me, human. I have no time for the weak and useless. He releases his grip and dusts off my shirt before taking a step back. Human, your highness. He gives a bow to the king before turning around and storms away. Once he is finally out of hearing range, all that's left is me and the king. Is he always that intense? Damn. I can only apologize so much for him. He's a businessman first before anything else. I think that he forgets that most people don't interact with people like him as often as he does. So what's gonna happen now? Kaldor grabs me by the wrists and gives me a tug over to his direction. I'll be personally showing you to your room. I get a room? I mean, they voted for your freedom. I'm not gonna send you back to the prison cell. That damn smile is followed by a wink as he turns on his heel, holding his paw out and beckoning me to follow him. As we leave the royal hall, I'm taken through an entranceway at the back. The wolf ends up giving me an impromptu tour of his family's castle. We pass by a kitchen, a luxurious-looking courtyard, and a few rooms that I'm told are used for facility purposes. As we round a corner, Kaldor informs me that this particular floor has rooms dedicated to guests and people of importance visiting the kingdom. But they haven't been used in a very long time. He seems a little down at that statement, but he tries not to dwell on it as he opens the door. I step inside and I'm immediately blown away by the look of the room. I take this chance to look around. It's a 2-floor abode fully equipped with multiple amenities. Out of everything in this room, I'm drawn to the settee in the lounge. As Kaldor fully steps inside, the door closes behind us. Now with some privacy, I shuffle over to the seat, slowly easing into it and letting out a satisfied grunt. I hope that it's to your liking, Brynn. It's amazing. The settee is so comfy. He's puzzled about my choice of words, but quickly picks up on what I'm saying. Well, our chairs are made of excellent craftsmanship. I should hope that it is comfortable. He makes his way over to the chair, hops over the arm, and crashes into the opposite end of the couch. The shift in weight is very noticeable as I feel myself roll slightly in his direction. We both exhale after the stressful day that we've had. My eyes snap forward after I hear some creaking, and I see the wolf put his paws up on the table, allowing himself to fully recline. I can't help but stare, as this has been my first chance to see the hind paws of a resident of this kingdom. Caldor eventually picks up on my staring too. Hey, is everything alright? You're kinda stare. His ears perk up, looking at his paws and back up at me. Then they droop down in embarrassment. Oh crap, I'm sorry. I didn't even ask if it was alright. Let me take him down. No, it's okay. I mean, there's no one around. Take a load off. Are you sure? Yeah, go for it. He stands up from the couch, stretching his arms above his head before bringing them back down to loosen his belt. The gem droops a slight bit, and I can't help but blush as his body shifts. Oh, that's so much better. I haven't been able to cut loose in months. He takes a seat next to me and puts his paws up once more. Deciding that I didn't want to be the only one not relaxing, I put my legs close to me and slowly begin to undo the lacing on my shoes. I kick them off to the side of the table and join him in putting my feet up. However, it is his turn to stare this time, interested in what I was doing. Brynn, I've been meaning to ask what those things are. I can't help but giggle a slight bit at his amusement. I grab the shoes and pass them over to him. These are college shoes, Your Highness. My people wear them as foot protection so that they don't get injured while doing our day-to-day tasks. I see. Interesting. Do you not have shoes here? Not like yours, no. Most of us have paws designed to handle the terrain that we find ourselves in. Sometimes we'll incorporate some kind of guard to the area if we're on away missions. Oh, and I've also seen some people in other lands wear these paw-like covers called, sandals? I don't use mine anymore, but they were great on making sure my paws didn't burn. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'd offer for you to try these shoes on for a test, Your Highness, but I think your paws are a bit too big for them. He lets out a slight chuckle before letting out a sigh. So, 'cause it's just us, do you think that you could drop the whole king routine? I get enough of it from the rest of the people in this kingdom. Oh, sure. Sorry if it annoyed you. Oh no, you don't have to apologize, it's exhausting. Sometimes when I feel like I'm working or having some privacy, I like people to see Caldor, not the crown. I see. Well, I promise that I'll treat you like a regular person. It's my turn to give him a smile now. An understanding mind is something that I think he'd hoped for, but didn't think that he'd get, much less from a stranger that had been arrested upon arrival. With both of us being tired, an awkward silence sets in. I question whether I should try and keep the subject going, but at present I'm just happy for non-threatening company. I look over at Caldor and see the wolf holding a long rectangular object. Before I get a chance to ask what it is, he points it out in front of him. Caldor, what are you I'm cut off as my eyes follow a line from the rectangular over to a blue screen. It flicks for a second before displaying a wanted poster of my face. The council met today in order to discuss the fate of the mysterious creature that invaded the kingdom's walls. By majority decision and with King Caldor's blessing, the human Brynn has been placed into the Lord Haim's care. This has been done with the intent to see if the human can back up his claims to being a scholar and... He presses another button and the screen quickly changes to a new video. We already know about that. You guys have TV? TV? You mean the screens? Yes, this is something that we have back home that took us years to develop and we get to a high standard, but I've never seen it so advanced. Oh, well, a lot of kingdoms have a setup like this. I might not know what this TV is, but the screens are a tool that we have to update and entertain citizens about the local life of the kingdom's residents. It's how we share things like our culture, local news, anything really. That's amazing. Are you really that surprised? It's just that I never would have expected for the technology here to be so advanced. Haim did capture my interest when he mentioned the various lanterns throughout the districts. But I thought that at most, it was just some sort of standard electrical wiring. This is on a whole nother level. My mind races at the digitized screen in front of me. I wonder what else the kingdom has in store. Keldor, how do you and your people power this? Something like this must take a lot of... Keldor has a passive expression on his face as he rises from the chair. He then goes on with a completely different topic, cutting me off. Well, I am glad to see such a big smile on your face. I should tell you that information like that is only available to a select few people. All you need to know is that we have a way of generating energy that's assisted us in creating some unique devices that help us all immensely. He walks around the room, heading over to the kitchen. Now, other than that, there aren't a lot of technical things in this room other than some lighting. Would you like a tour of the rest of the room while I'm here? I'd appreciate that. Where should we start? The kitchen setup is a little basic, but if you want to bring anything back from the markets, it's adequate in storing or preparing meals here. This back room attached to it is a storage closet. I'll let you use that however you need. It looks lovely. Before I can say more, my stomach lets out a loud growl. Sorry, it's been a while since I had something to eat. I'm a little embarrassed, but he gives me an understanding nod. It's quite alright, Brian. I'll have someone bring you some lunch when I leave. If you need anything to eat or drink, there's a switch by the lights that serves as a call function. Someone will come by and get you whatever you need. That's awfully kind, thank you. It isn't a problem. Try not to use it at the odd hours of the night, though. Nothing's worse than being woken up in the moon's peak just because someone wants a chicken leg. I give him a nod as we walk over to the staircase. He lets me go first as I get a viewing of all the rooms on the second floor. You'll find your bedroom at the back. There is a washroom just opposite the stairs, and then this room over here is... He stops to open the door for me. Inside the room is a single chair, desk, and a large bookshelf decorating the far right wall. There's some interesting books over there about our history, as well as a few travel books. I used to read them when I was younger, but feel free to take a look and take your pick if you get bored. You seem to know an awful lot about this room. Used to be yours or something? No. It was an old friend's room. He doesn't use it anymore. He steps back and slowly leaves the room, looking a little disheartened. I'm not long after him, but as I reach the stairs, he looks back. I'm gonna go and get someone to bring you some food. You can get comfy, maybe have a wash while you're at it. He can't help but chuckle at my expression as he backs out of the door and walks away. Now left alone, I take the wolf's advice. I walk to the back and head to the bedroom. After stepping inside, I strip down to my briefs. As expected, it has a bathroom that's complete with a walk-in shower and a row of towels stacked on a nearby cupboard. I take the last of my clothes off, step inside, and turn the valves, making sure to adjust the water so it's the perfect temperature. I may not understand the full extent of how they got this set up, but I'd be lying if I said that I didn't appreciate it. I see some soap tucked on a side shelf and begin to lather myself in a surprisingly sweet floral scent. After washing myself fully, I finally have a moment to collect all my thoughts. It's so nice to finally get clean after all this time. Now satisfied, I step out and wrap a towel around my waist. As I leave the bathroom, a new scent fills the air and I make my way downstairs to the kitchen. A wooden tray is set on top of the counter. A hearty bowl of soup is accompanied by some thick slices of bread and thinly sliced meat, something that I certainly can't complain about. I take a slice and dip it into the soup. Its heavenly rich and creamy tomato flavor hits my taste buds as the bread perfectly soaks up the flavor. I try another bite, this time with the meat. The salty flavor of beef sends me overboard and I scarf the rest of the food down quickly. Pleased with the meal, I lean back from the countertop, which is when I see a bundle of fabrics next to the tray. There is a little note placed on top. Hope you enjoyed the food. Thought that you could use a new set of clothes to be comfortable in. Well, isn't he thoughtful? I grab the set of clothes and make my way back upstairs, head into the bedroom and change into the attire that he'd left me. A comfortable short-sleeve linen shirt and a slightly large pair of shorts now decorate my frame. From an open window, I am able to see that the sun is setting. I can't imagine there will be much more scheduled for the day, so I take a short walk over to the study and look at the book collection. The Great Journey Over the Iced Waters. Seems interesting. Happy with my choice, I lay down in the bed. It was much more comfortable than I had expected, especially the pillows. After positioning them in a decorative manner, I lie back on them and open the first page of the book. The Story of the Great Journey. I read through the first handful of pages and my eyes wander over to the window, While the sun's descent grows faster, I drift into a peaceful sleep. As the sun rises, I feel the light slip through the cracks of the window and carefully reach my face. While I would love to sleep in a little longer, this disturbance made that impossible. I slowly swing my legs over to the side of the bed and sit up while stretching my arms. As I fully extend myself, I hear a loud thud hit the floor. I jump and open my eyes to see that it was my book of choice. That just lost its place, damn. I sigh, but try not to let it bother me too much. I stand up and make my way downstairs to the countertop for some water. My eyes are half shut, and I scratch my side. Good morning. Ugh! I jump out of my skin, startled by the wolf waiting in the living room. Have you just been waiting here this entire time? Well, yeah, we have stuff to do today, remember? Brought you breakfast, too. I appreciate his offer, and I look over to the dining table to see a large bowl placed there. Okay, well, don't scare me like that next time. I nearly had a heart attack. Psst. No, you didn't. Your heartbeat wasn't fast enough for that. How did you... I have really good hearing. He immediately follows it with a wink as my cheeks turn a slight pink. I turn my back and I look into the bowl. I hope you enjoyed. It's a particular favorite breakfast of mine. It was a mix of oats, milk, berries, and honey. I don't hold back from grabbing a large scoop with my spoon before taking a bite. My tongue is immediately painted with spectacular flavors, as it seems to be a pattern now. I wasn't expecting much out of this combination, but I'm so glad that I was proven wrong. It's delicious. Next to the bowl is a stein with a red liquid in it. I raise it to my lips and take a sip, the sweet flavor of berries filling my mouth. I have to stop myself from downing the whole cup in one go. I thought that you might like that. It's a juice that we make with locally sourced berries. Are these produced by Fisk's factories? They are indeed. Well, he's a genius, that's for sure. This is some of the best juice that I've had. He lets out another laugh as he continues to watch me eat. As I am finishing it up, he makes his way over. So, I've decided that I am personally going to accompany you today. Do you still have the money that Haim left you? Yeah, I placed it on the nightstand after you left, so what's on the agenda? Right now, we're waiting for an acquaintance of mine to show up. When he arrives, we're gonna head into the city center. Oh, I see. Is it the same one I was found in? No, I'm gonna take you to one of the quieter ones. It's got some desirable merchant stores up there. It'll make you fit in with Haim's team really well. That, and I think that it will be a good trial run to see how the public feels about you. It'll be the first time that I'm walking the streets after the results of my trial were broadcast to the whole kingdom. As such, a part of me can understand his hesitation. We will be fine, right? Well, yeah, I'll be with you. I know that he didn't mean it that way that it sounded, but I blush again anyway. He can be really sweet sometimes. But yes, we'll also have... As he says this, the door opens and a very tall wolf steps into the apartment. He has attire somewhat similar to Kaldor, though unlike the king, his clothing highlights a tightly formed set of abs. I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't impressed. After all, a physique like that must take some serious time and dedication to form. Well, speak of the devil. Brian, this is Gear. My eyes wander up and I see his face covered by a metallic visor. He looks at the king and then back at me. After a pause, he finally removes the visor, so we have a chance to see his face. It's good to see you, your highness. Oh, come on, Gear. I don't need you kissing my ass, too. Is he not? No, he knows my situation and he's happy to treat me as I've requested. I see. Well, human, I hope you haven't caused too much trouble for our citizens. I'm sorry to have to drag you into another mission so soon, Gear. I know you just got back, and it's not really fair. It's okay, Kaldor. I got enough rest last night. So, he's my charge? That's right. The council wants you to monitor him. That also includes protecting him if things get a little rough. By your orders. Brian, can I suggest wearing your attire from yesterday? It's rather cold out for someone with no fur. With a nod, I head back up the stairs and find the pile of clothes that I'd left behind from before my shower. After quickly slipping my shorts off and folding them, I put on my outfit. I opt to carry my lab coat as opposed to fully wearing it, just until I get the chance to see how cold it could be. Before I make my way downstairs, I overhear Kaldor telling Gur about today's plans. I want to take him to the quieter market square on the east side. After recent events, Skuld confirmed that there hasn't been a huge amount of people there, so I think that it'd be perfect to see how some of the citizens react. Yeah, that's smart. I know the council's judgment is law and all, but it's been way too long since we've had a decision like this. There's no telling how it'll go over, really. Exactly. It'll probably take most of the day, but we can always cut it short if things go awry. Seriously though, just like that, Haim finds out that he might be brainy and just offers him a spot? Brother, I was just as surprised as you were to hear it. If it had been Frisk or any other member of the council, I'd be less shocked. But no, he just took it as it was and wanted to put him to the test. I mean, I'm not gonna complain, but we can certainly take something away from this. After all, if the human even is as half as smart as Haim expects, we might see some serious developments around here. I know. I'm really hoping that this is our break, brother. Gur goes silent and I delay my descent down the stairs to not interrupt him. My footsteps betray me and the wolves flick their ears over to the stairs. Sorry it took me a while to get myself all sorted. Are we ready to go? We'll discuss it later, Kaldor. Your chambers later. Agreed. The two share a whisper before answering my question. We quickly assemble and head out the door, and I fail to take my eyes away from Gur. The wolf slips his mask back over his eyes. I'm sorry, Gur, was it? If you don't mind me asking, how come you've got your mask back on? The wolf looks to me but turns away and picks up the pace, setting some serious distance between us. Please don't take any offense to that, Brian. He never really shows himself in public. If you ever find yourself in privacy with him, he's quite a talker. I can understand that. I don't always like talking to strangers either. We both laugh before picking up the pace to catch up with our muscular escort. I'm led to the castle's main gate, watching the inner wall lifted so that we can pass through. I'm shocked as I see the wolf easily grab and pick up a large spear from a nearby guard station. Before I can say anything, Kaldor catches my eyes going wide. You can never be too careful. I can imagine. Now that our group is adequately equipped to handle whatever situation we might find ourselves in, the three of us begin our journey into the town. And that's where I'm going to leave it for today. So, right off the bat, we went to trial. I suppose that was to be expected, considering that you decided to run, or I decided to run. But as it turns out, regardless, you're gonna go to trial. Whether you stayed and eventually met the chubby wolf named Schalt. I think that's how you pronounce it, because it's like a Swedish name, I think. Or if you decided to go with Fraser, you would still go to trial. Anyways, but we ended up meeting, sort of, the council, which helps the king govern. We met the Seior, or I guess they're all technically Seiors. I had a lot of trouble pronouncing all of these weird names. So even with the names in the other video, the one that's after this one, still a lot of trouble, like most of them. But yeah, anywho, so met a lot of characters. Interesting. I think some of the council members were supposed to have sprites, but because stuff happens, and especially evident with the fact that this build was also incomplete. It was supposed to have been released around September, but then they pushed it back, and then they were like, well, we kept you guys waiting a long time, so here, we're going to release it for Patreon, and then we're going to release it for public. And it released. So yeah. But yeah, I think there might have been some sprites missing, like maybe some of the council members, unless it was always planned like, oh, you don't get to see most of them. You just get to see the ones that are going to be interacting with you the most, which are Kaldor's uncle, Kaldor himself, Hylam? I forgot his name already. The big chunky wolf. Why is everybody chunky? I'm not complaining, it's just I'm noticing that a lot. Like, basically all the wolves are pretty big, jacked, or chunky. Anywho, so we're gonna get new clothes, thankfully. It does... I am interested in why the story has a sort of magic, well, pseudo-magic, pseudo-technology, where that's coming from, and if that was something that was already planned, or if that's something in response to what the developer heard, which, you know, that people were saying. Because I do know that the developer did hear some comments about the main character, that they didn't want them to just be like a standing character, they wanted them to be like a main character, like an actual person, so they decided to retool the main character. I'm wondering if that in turn is gonna have some, like, if that's gonna change the story a little, because now you have to have the main character be an active participant. He can't just be a sort of, you know, passive spectator that just sort of landed in this world and is just watching things go by without really, you know, contributing anything to the story. Now he has to contribute. So he has to become a part of the story. You can't just, you know, write him as like, oh, well, these things are happening and I'm just sort of standing here. But yeah. So I'm wondering if that changed a little about what was gonna happen. But I am glad for it, though, that they are not just a passive observer, that they're gonna be somebody doing stuff. What else? What else? I don't want to compare it to another visual novel, because I do that a lot, and that's very unfair, especially for new visual novels. But nah, I'm gonna judge it on its own merit. And its own merit is, I get the sense that Kaldor is wanting to keep Brynn, which I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly, close to him for some reason. Kaldor is like the new young king who took over after his father died. I'm assuming it wasn't sort of, oh, he was sick and he died, and it was like, oh, he's dead. Well, I guess we can't make the uncle the king. We can have to make this dude, the son, the king. And he probably wasn't that prepared for it. But, you know, it happened. Oh well. Get ready, Kaldor. I wonder if that's going to be a plot point in the story. Yeah, not really much to say yet. Interesting characters have been met. That's all I can say, I guess. Would have been nice to see them, but I suppose eventually we will meet them properly. But yeah. Anyway, so write down in the comments what you think, and thank you all for watching / listening. If you would like to play, my god, I can't talk, Cleaved, you can do so by going down into the link in the description, and there should be a direct link for their Twitter page, which should have a direct link to the itch.io page where you can download it and play it there, or you can go to itch.io yourself and download it from there. And if I don't remember if they have a Patreon or a Coffee or what, but if they do, I will post that down in the description, as well as my Coffee in case you want to donate to me through there, or my channel memberships, which, you know, I have now. Hopefully you know by now what that is. But you see some names here. As of November the 8th, these are the people who are my current channel members. On the left, you see the Yin supporters. And on the right, you see the Yin friends who have early access to the videos that I am doing. For example, this one. They will be seeing this one before anyone else. So yeah, you know, if you want to watch videos before anyone else, provided I have something uploaded, or even some exclusive videos, because I do have at least one exclusive video right now. So if you want to see those, you know, just subscribe to the Yin Friends tier. So yeah, ooh. You get other stuff, but yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I guess that's it for now, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.